switching gears. And you say as much or as little as you want.
No, it's fine.
We just had Vince Russo on.
I'll tell it here and nowhere else because I don't talk about him on my own channel.
You have to do the breaking news.
There you go.
I hit it, but I don't want to interrupt.
Okay, so I had Vince on, and one of my questions to him was, to me he's like a polarizing figure. Mm-hmm. People are drawn to him, and people like to argue with him a lot, mm-hmm. right? And I had mentioned a tweet that was going back and forth with him and Bubba. I had mentioned, he had just mentioned something about Triple H. I said, you're picking a fight with Triple H. I said, Sean Ross Sapp, you're picking fights with Sean. I've seen you guys going back at it, back and forth. I know what he said about you, and it pretty much stems to you texting him out of the blue at 11:30 at night, calling him a piece of shit for no reason whatsoever.
That isn't true at all.
Okay. That's what he told us.
No.
Where does the beef start? And how are you guys together as friends?
Oh, I don't want to do any business with Vince Russo. I don't want to do any business with Vince Russo.
Together, Sean. I
can hold no ill will towards him, but we worked together at Wrestling Inc. in 2016, and I was not getting paid enough money to say no to anything, but I was put on a podcast with him, and the exact quote I gave to Raj Giri was, I don't want to compromise my integrity from someone who compromised theirs a long time ago for the things that he said. I had to transcribe his audio because he wouldn't do it himself. Obviously, it's not something he does. But the show, we had very good chemistry. We talked well. We had very entertaining shows. We're very good on screen together. And then I got hired for Wrestling Inc. And I got hired for Fightful. Around that same time, Vince leaves Wrestling Inc. And I'm like, I wonder why. Well, then I had the follow-up call with Fightful, and they go, yeah, we're putting you on a show with Vince. And I was like, son of a bitch. I thought that I was breaking free. But you know what? I was like, you know what? Different situation. I'm calling the shots here. We can work with this. I can do this. And it became abundantly clear, like within 3 or 4 weeks, like this guy, despite being paid a salary to be there, because we were trying to launch the site and, get eyes on it. And Vince is a name that at least, whether good, bad, or indifferent, at that time in 2016, people were like, oh, okay, let's see what's going on. But within like 3 or 4 weeks, it became a running joke how unmotivated he was at Fightful. And he gave me like one of the laziest written reviews of Raw. Like, he was paid to write a written review of Raw every week. And it was just one of the laziest things. And I was like, I went to my business partner and I was like, listen, he's got to go. Like, we can't have this. Like, he's actively disrespecting and making rude comments about our audience. And when I called him about it, his solution was for he and I to manufacture arguments on screen, like pretend we were mad, like work the audience. And he would say things like, these people think it's real. They think wrestling is real. And I'm like, listen, man, nobody watching our show thinks it's real. They're watching it for backstage analysis and information and a breakdown. These are adults that are watching our shows. They're not of some belief it's not real. And he said a lot of things that were very disrespectful to our audience. And I was like, okay, went to the business partner. I was like, can't work with him. Unfortunately, there were some personal things that happened with his family, like immediately after. And I don't think he was planning on coming back after that anyway. So fortunately or unfortunately, that happened. And there was a parting of the ways. He was going to get fired. I don't know exactly how my business partner handled that, but occasionally, like once every year or so, we'd have him on to film some stuff and things were fine. However, at some point after that, Vince realized he could make more money by being terrible to me than being civil to me. There, you can go online and find dozens and dozens of episodes of him just making fun of how I look, how my co-hosts look, any number of things. Like, I don't care if they break down like the commentary or anything like that. Do not care. Not a single bit. but there are dozens of videos of him making fun of how people look, how they sound, any number of things. And it all comes back to him saying, oh, well, they think they're in the business. No, I'm in the news and rumor business. I write wrestling gossip. That's what I do. I'm very aware of what business I'm in. But I can't remember what necessarily led to the DM late at night, but I know he had said something like particularly just rude about me. Just really, really rude about me. Oh, I know what it was.
the dramatic water sip.
I do, yeah. So last year, I got into a bit of an altercation with a guy who was every type of bigot possible.
Billy Body. We
There you
talked
go.
about that. Yes, Billy Body.
Every type of bigot possible. He hates women. He hates gay people. He hates transgender people. He claimed he was going to punch a woman that was a friend of mine in the head.
Oh.
He said that he was going to punch me in the back of the head on sight if he ever saw me.
Who is this gentleman? Do you work with him?
Exactly.
So,
who is he?
Francine,
He's a nobody.
We talked about it when it happened because it was circulated around when WrestleCon was it WrestleCon, Sean, right? When it took place?
Starcast.
Oh, Starcast, excuse me. And Billy Body is a claimed to be reporter. He runs a betting site, and again, betting site. And he's a former Big Brother contestant in the UK. He is the worst. He is a complete joke, and you can't say enough about Billy. That's just he's a joke. That's all.
He's a horrible person. He's a truly horrible person.
Okay.
And like, if this were about like my opinions on wrestling, like I don't care. Like I don't care if somebody says something about that, but said he was going to punch me in the back of the head on sight, etc. So I see him at this thing. I wait for him to walk by me. It was not on sight. He did not hit me, but I'm not going to let him get in the position to do that. So I got into his face and I said, what's the deal here? So Vince, to his audience, peddles this notion that I was mad at some wrestling opinion of Billy's. And I'm like, no, I was mad that he said he was going to punch a woman. I was mad that he...
Let me interject one more thing. He was also working semi-closely with Vince as well. So there was a closer association with Billy and Vince. And Billy also working with K100, which he has since been fired from because he was making up stories. So
of whom have asked me to come on K100 numerous times.
I can confirm that too.
Because Disco and I used to be somewhat cool. We were in the same fantasy football league or something. And the way that somebody in WWE told me about Disco, they said, he's the reason people call you and try to sell you an extended car warranty. He's the guy that buys it. And I said, okay, I'll try to not pay too much mind to him. But
wow.
Vince tried to portray the Billy thing as like me being aggressive and trying to fight a guy over wrestling opinions, which would never happen. Absolutely not. But if you tell me or say publicly, I'm going to punch a woman, well, then get the hell out of this convention that I'm at, because you're not going to be welcome there. And I don't care who you are, or what you look like, or anything like that. And if not me, somebody else is going to boot you the hell out of there. And shocker, Killer Cross did the same thing the next day. Killer Cross got into the dude's face, made him apologize to Scarlett for the horrible things he said about her.
What?
Yeah, he got kicked out of Ric Flair's last match 3 different times.
Wow.
Yeah. So Vince is online saying, he said horribly racist things about black members of our team. Funny enough, he was like in my face saying, I'm brown. How can I be racist? Well, I don't know. Read your Twitter, buddy. But anyway, Vince perpetuated that it was because of wrestling, even though dozens of people said it's not about wrestling. This is what it's about. And he kind of dug into his heels. And then he's like, well, why did you call Disco Inferno a little bitch on one of your tweets? And I said, because he was being a little bitch about it. I was like, he gave this platform to a guy who said he was going to hit a woman. Like, what? I'm sorry. If anybody on my team said they were going to hit a woman, you're fired immediately. You're gone. That's it. Not to mention racist stuff, not to mention homophobic and transphobic stuff.
This is
ain't going to happen. So to me, that's where I was like, okay, Unfortunately, Vince appears to be what everybody else said he was, not the person that I experienced, because I can deal with him turning in lazy writing or something. I don't think he's a bad person because of that, or not being motivated at work. Plenty of people aren't motivated at work. It doesn't make me think they're a bad person. That's what made me go, okay, you're knowingly lying about this guy. There's no way you haven't seen his Twitter conduct and all that. So Vince did a bunch of shows on me after that. That's when he had decided, well, I can make more money being terrible to Sean. And not only that, terrible to my co-host Denise, who is a Hispanic woman who has had to overcome an awful lot of hurdles to get where she is in wrestling. Like had to work her ass off. Does everything she can. Picked on her quite a bit as well, but you know, she's a big girl. She can handle it. But what he would do, he would like bury her and then try to get her on the show repeatedly. And it would, you know, that's not comfortable. That's not nice. That's not like, hey, I'm going to bury you and then we're going to have you on the show to defend yourself. Like that's to that audience. So I think Vince had tweeted something about me, and I'm not going to name names right now, but one of his friends who was very successful, because I replied, I was like, Vince, what are you doing? And this person said, Vince doesn't think about you as much as you think he does. And I said to him, I bet you $1,000 I can get Vince to do 60 minutes of audio on me within a week. And that guy goes, there's no way. There's no way. And he even said he's got too much to do. And I posted the screenshots of this after it happened. And he is like, man, he doesn't care that much. He's like, it's a bit for him. And I was like, I guarantee you he does. So I messaged Vince and I sent him the link to the show. And I said, Vince, I just want to say this to you directly. You're a coward and a joke. And I could tell Vince was getting riled up because when Vince doesn't have something to say, that's when he's riled up. If he's saying something, he's in his comfort zone. But if he doesn't have something to say back after all the shots he took, personally, professionally, physically, make fun of how people look and all that stuff, that's when I know. So when Vince is like, LOL, haha, that's when Vince is bothered. That's when Vince is riled up. And this person, this friend of his, when we came to funny enough, it was for NAMI as well. We did this for the National Alliance on Mental Illness as well. Okay. I was like, listen, I don't need the money, but if you donated it, that'd be great. Well, a couple days went by and Vince didn't do a show. So I was like, all right, I'm going to make him do a show. Okay. So I tweeted that I'm going to do a show about the interaction with Vince. And then Vince immediately was like, doing a live show right now. And he got on the air. He got on the air. And listen, Vince can't be mad that somebody's trolling him. He cannot be mad about that. That's what he does for a living. And about 45 minutes into the show, his friend messaged me and said, he's starting to wrap up, buddy. He's got to go the full hour. So I hopped in the live chat.
Oh,
I remember that. I remember that. I saw that.
I hopped in the live chat. And I felt like I was keeping him on the line like those old movies, like to track his location. I was just trying to get there. He did another 45. And yes, to his friend's credit, his friend not only at the hour mark sent $1,000 to NAMI, at the 1.5 hour mark sent another $500. And I was like, okay, that was worth it to me. Sure. Now, I mean, Vince has never let it go. Vince stopped talking about me for a little bit after I posted the screenshots with his friend's name redacted saying, hey, listen, because I was in his DMs and I was like, you should call me, Vince. You should call me right now. Call me, Vince.
While I was live?
Yeah, while he was live and before that too. Because I mean, listen, I've worked with Vince and I know what agitates Vince, and Vince doesn't like to admit when he gets got. Vince really doesn't like it. So during the show, I was sending him all the horrible comments in the chat. I was sending them to his DMs, of which he blocked me afterwards. But Vince got. That's what it was. Vince said terrible things about me. He said terrible things about my co-host. He brought up people that I don't bring up online for specific reasons, and he knows why. He did that to try to get a rise out of me, and then Vince got, and now he sticks with it, and now he's very, very upset. But
I've learned so much today.
A lot of layers.
I've learned I've learned that Sean is a worker. I've learned that Sean is also a massive ball breaker.
Yes,
I've learned, and doesn't give two shits about anything.
I don't stand to benefit from having Vince Russo on a show ever, never. But I just, for years, I just kept quiet about Vince. I was like, whatever. Like, I don't have any issue with him. He was nice to me. But when you sit there and you cape for a person who is every type of bigot on the planet, that tells me a lot about your character. Because it wasn't you know what? I should disassociate with him because he said he was going to punch a woman. It was him pretending that stuff didn't exist. And then he turned it into, well, why are you bothered by Disco? Well, because Disco did the same thing. And it's not like a LOL, you're a snowflake thing. This guy said he was going to hit a woman.
Yeah.
A little bit different than.
Were you a fan of wrestling growing up?
Oh, yeah. Big fan.
Were you a fan of Vince Russo's writing? I mean, don't even think about you working. You were not a fan of the 90s Vince Russo.
I mean, no. The most I can say that I enjoyed of his work is that I enjoyed that everybody had something to do. Other than that, like I was very much not a fan of the type of thing that Vince did.
Okay. Because you know how they always say never meet your heroes. Right? And so sometimes, like, I'm a fan of somebody's work, and then I meet them at a convention, and they're totally not what I expected. And I'm just like, I want to like this person so badly, but they're such a jerk. And it tarnishes things. You know what I mean?
You will find hundreds, if not thousands, of people calling me a jerk online. And what I'll ask is, okay, go show me what you did to cause that, because that's my thing. I will not go at somebody unless they're rude or terrible or something like that. I block liberally online. If somebody's terrible, I'm just going to block them. I don't owe them my social media experience. If they want me to unblock them, they can message our Fightful account, and the fella who's run that for 6 or 7 years can message me and say, this guy wants you to unblock him. And I'll be like, yeah, okay.
It's a waste of energy.
Exactly. And if people say terrible things to me and they're very stupid, I'm going to quote tweet it and be like, this is stupid. Like, that's it. And if you can't, I'll tell you the weirdest thing. When an adult male online calls somebody soft for blocking them, I'm like, you're upset that somebody blocked you on the World Wide Web. JBL blocked me 10 years ago. I ain't sad about it. Guy had a reason.
Say to him.
I don't know.
You know.
I don't know
what you said.
I don't know.
You know.
Baron Corbin unblocked me on the air one time.
Why did he block you initially?
Something about the Bengals and the Chiefs.
Oh,
because I'm a Bengals fan.
Oh my God. Really?
Yeah, but we had a great talk, and he's like, you know what? I'm going to unblock you on Twitter now.
You changed him. You turned him around.
There you go.
Well, I honestly, I love Vince Russo. He's I only worked with him one time in TNA.
Lucky you.
He was lovely to me. And the segment was good. I have to admit, the segment that he produced was very good. But I've gotten to know him a little bit just from the online stuff. But I see how, the interactions that he has. And that's why I brought up you.
Sure.
And Trips and Bubba and all this stuff, because I just wanted to hear what he was thinking. And now you were lovely to me, and I told Vince, I said, well, he was lovely when I met him the one time.
Yeah.
And, I forget Vince's answer. I don't think, what did he say? Something like, I don't know him very well or something.
Yeah, something to that extent.
He doesn't know me very well, but he knew me well enough to bring up my personal life on camera.
No. He said, I don't know you very well. That's why you're lovely.
Oh, okay.
I just said, well, he was nice to me when I met him at the convention. And that's what I look for in people. If you treat me well, I treat you well. So
yeah,
I think both of you are great. And we just wanted to get your response, because we always like to give everybody the opportunity to say their piece. And I don't want to blindside anyone. And, I was just wondering what the beef was. And
yeah, I mean,
sad.
Vince has entire shows dedicated to being terrible to people.
Wow.
And then and he'll say, "Oh, it's just us criticizing the news and podcasts." No, it's going at people, their physical appearance and how they sound and all that stuff too. Like, that's the entire point of the show, is to cultivate an audience of being terrible to other people. And then specifically, when his audience acts like that online, he gets surprised when people are like, "This is kind of toxic." But until Vince said something about me, I didn't say anything about him. And Vince is probably still a little bothered that he got. And I don't know if his friend told him that he made a $1,500 donation because Vince was dumb enough to do that show. But I'm glad Vince was dumb enough to do that show, because the people who watch that show ain't subscribing to me anyway. They're not plopping down $5 a month to subscribe to my dirt sheet. So I didn't lose anything from that. And
You gained for the charity, which is great.
Yes.
That's the most important thing.
We earned $1,500 more for a charity than I ever would have made.